she came from. She lives just across the cornfield from our mom, literally. And so the furthest thing from yachting, quit high school when I was 15, then somehow a couple years later started college at 17, went on to get my master's in chemistry because it was very appropriate to be a yacht captain. So somehow my master's in chemistry translated into me becoming a captain. So what happened a few years ago was me and a female deck stew of mine was delivering boats up and down the inland rivers. So, do you need a chair, sir? Okay. So we were running boats up and down the inland rivers, so from Florida all the way up to like Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and let me tell you, running the Mississippi River, you better put your big girl pants on for that. And it all started with the Triton. They somehow got a hold of that story and they wrote an article. And then it just went on, and then before you know it, I'm in Forbes, I'm in Business Insider, and then I'm in yachting, and then I'm in boating, and I'm going, well, what is it they all want? And it was that my story was inspiring, having come from where I came from, the background that I had, and going through all of the bumps and bruises along the way, and then being a female in a male-dominated industry and getting to where I'm at. So why I'm so passionate about mental health is there was a point in time in which I didn't want to be upright on this planet anymore. And I was about 26 years old, and I've done the work mentally, and I've done the therapy, and I've seen the doctors, and I've done what I've needed to do, and I am the happiest I could be. I'm the happiest that I've ever been. And so along with kind of being, one of the few female captains in the industry and having gone through some shit in life, as every single one of us in here has done, but then coming out on the other side and being so happy and so successful and good at what I wanted to do, I was like, I have to keep sharing my story and I have to give back. One of the things that I used to be a chemistry professor before, and it was very clear the give back that I gave to the community, teaching at an underrepresented community college. It was obvious what I was doing. And when I joined yachting, I felt like, what am I doing for society anymore? I'm just making a rich man richer, driving around, a really expensive piece of equipment. How am I giving back to society? And so gradually, as I told my story and realized what was needed in this industry and what anybody of any age needs, but in particular, I have a soft spot for the young adult, hence my college teaching days. And so just over my time in yachting, this has come about. And a few months ago, I said to Jessica, my PR agent, that yes, I had to get one of those because this passion project has grown and I can't do this anymore. So let me just go ahead and tell you, I do have a PR agent, Jessica, and I have my social media manager, Ryan, that's running around here somewhere. Right there he is. I couldn't do it without them. And so I said, well, I want to hold a mental health seminar. And a couple days later, Jessica goes, okay, I talked to Emma at Informa, and we've got a date. And I was like, I guess we're doing a mental health seminar then. So here we are. So what I want to do today is I've brought a variety of panelists along, and I'm so grateful and thankful that they've come along. And I want to dive deep. A lot of shoreside support has covered mental health in the industry, and that's great. And I know there are people that have left the industry and gone on to have careers and businesses in mental health, but I'm speaking of it from a captain's perspective, from an active crew member's perspective, from a female's perspective. And so I want to welcome my panelists because if it wasn't for them, you guys would just have to sit here and listen to me talk for an hour and a half. So we have Becky. Becky, I'll let you introduce yourself. She's from MSOS.
Hi, as Kelly said, I'm Becky Castellano. I've been a nurse for over 40 years. Managed to transition, interesting, long story, from medicine into the yachting industry. My company is a full-service maritime medical provider. My background in nursing, the first 5 years that I spent as a practicing nurse was in a locked psychiatric unit. So I got firsthand knowledge of dealing with mental illness at its most severe form. But it gave me a lot of insight that I carried on through the rest of my nursing career and into my business career, and being able to understand stress, anxiety, depression, verbal clues, but the nonverbal clues when somebody is just not doing well. As a nurse, mental health is just as important as their physical health, and they actually go hand in hand. So I was glad to be invited to participate, and hopefully can lend some insights. Thanks.
Next is Rick of JMS USA, and when I had my first conversation with Rick, it's because he was starting a management company and he wanted to manage my boat, and he invited me to his office.
She said no.
I said no. I said no. I said, I have a manager, his name is Ricky, and I kind of like him better than you. So, and I mean, when he invited me to his new office, we had to sit on the concrete floor. I mean,
That worked.
So go ahead, Rick.
Hi, I'm Rick Thomas. President of JMS Yachting USA, yacht management company here in the States. I started my maritime career at the age of 18. Went to sea as a commercial diver in the oil fields of Louisiana, Texas. Spent almost 5 years offshore and saw a lot as a young man. Learned a lot about being in the ocean, working. Rotated back to the beach and started a little company called Nautical Structures 36 years ago, designing and manufacturing equipment for luxury yachts. And that's how I learned the yachting industry. Going to shipyards and working with captains and crew and projects, and seeing firsthand how this industry works from the inside kind of out. Opportunity came my way last year, actually at this boat show last year, and here I am a year later. We've got JMS Yachting, very cool management company, well established in Europe and starting to become well established here in the States. And one of the givebacks, I think, after 40 years in the maritime industry, is the ability to work with individuals. It's cool when you get to place people on board boats and put crew on board. It's challenging when you're working with them on a day-to-day basis. And of course, the fallout of that is you get to see, all sides of the industry that way. So we're here as a voice and hopefully a resource.
Thanks, Rick. Actually, you guys have to share this mic. You have to share that one, and if they get too close together, they'll make bad noises. Go ahead, Angelica.
Hi, everyone. My name is Angelica Sheldon, and I'm with Mid-Air. I started in the maritime industry about 16 years ago. I started off with the cruise line industry, working as a contractor, traveling the world, going on different cruise lines and working that way. And then I got into yachting at a yacht brokerage, where I learned the ins and outs, really loved the industry, which kept me on. And then I started 10 years ago at Mid-Air, which is a medical company. We provide comprehensive services to the yachting industry. For me, emotional support is a huge topic. It's something I really get concerned about in the industry. 10 years of listening to stories from crew members of things going off the rails, going wrong, and it's just very heartbreaking to me. That and personal stories of friends struggling with mental health, suicide as well. It means a lot to me. It's very heartbreaking, and listening to people's stories through the years, I know, and I'm glad that Kelly was able to put this together so, we can spread the word a little bit more. So, thank you.
Hi, my name is John Behrens, and I just want to, had to break the ice. Hi, I'm John Behrens. Work with medical support offshore right now, and grew up racing sailboats in Chicago. From there, spent a little time in the Navy, hung out 10 years on yachts, and I'm lucky enough to still be here where I get life experience. So, just as important.
So again, thanks to them, and those of you guys that have come and don't have a seat yet, Daphne, there's a seat over there. And if you don't know her, that's Daphne. Yay for Daphne. One of the things that is really important, and I know I'm off topic already and I haven't even gotten started, is managers, whether they be the boat manager, whether they be the charter manager. And I have to say, that woman and her sidekick Casey are bulldogs when it comes to my crew. We run 20 charters a year, which is hard. And Daphne always calls, especially when it's a tight turnaround or she knows we've been running hard, and she says, Kelly, can you do this? And from management side, that is so, so important. And when Daphne, I saw that RSVP pop up in my inbox, I was like, oh my God, because that woman, like many of you here, are so busy, and the fact that you took time out to be here is just, it's awesome. So I wanted to start off with a couple stories. What goes on, like I said, Shoreside Support has done a lot of workshops and seminars on this, and I'm going to be honest, it kind of falls flat. And that's not to offend any of you guys that have done workshops and done sessions and stuff like that. My hope is that speaking out as an active crew member will encourage other crew members to speak up, to say something, to get them to understand that they have a responsibility to watch out for their own selves on board. So I'm hoping that I can add a different perspective by being an active crew member and speaking out about this. And like I said, I had my own, mental health struggles, but when I see something like this, so this came to me just a couple days ago. It's a text message. I want to read it to you. It says, "Are you in town, Cap?" I said, "No, I'm not. I'm on charter." I said, "How are you?" I replied. "I'm a mess," she replied. "I left my boat in the middle of the night." "Oh no, what happened?" I asked. "The engineer wouldn't stop making advances on me. He kept texting me, asking me for a hug, then a kiss, then a snuggle. I told him that I was not that kind of woman and reminded him that he was married to a very beautiful woman. He said it wouldn't hurt to get a little closer, and whatever came of it wouldn't affect their friendship. I locked my cabin door, but was afraid that wasn't enough. I decided to leave. I just had a bad gut feeling in the middle of the night. It's been nonstop drugs and alcohol since I joined this boat. I can't go to the captain because, well, he's part of it too. Is this something I just have to get used to if I want to be a part of this industry? I just feel extremely low and lost. I feel scared about my mental health because I don't know where to turn or who can help me." I want to tell you guys, this is someone that this is her second career. She's got many years in social work. So someone that knows the brain better than many of us here that says, I feel scared about my mental health and I don't know what to do. And is this something that I'm just supposed to accept if I want to be a part of this industry? Quite frankly, it's bullshit. And I'm tired of hearing about it. And some of you may know I have a fairly huge presence on social media, and I love that and I welcome that, and I answer every DM that I get. And some of them reach out that don't even know me. I have another one. "I know we don't really know each other than through social media," she says, "but I wanted to ask you about something." I replied, "Sure, go ahead." She asks, "Have you ever experienced sexual harassment or assault as a female captain?" I replied, "Yeah, why?" I knew where she was going, so I thought. She said, "I've been working on boats since I could walk. Being a captain has been a lifelong goal of mine since I was tiny. I've got great relationships with all of my crew, except one," she says. "The chief mate that has been on this boat forever couldn't stand the fact that I was the one that was hired as captain and not him. He told me he'd get even and make me wish I had never gotten to the top. He broke into my cabin one night, and well, you know the rest of the story." She asked me, how do I handle something like this emotionally and mentally? Like, this is stuff that really happens. Now, let me digress a little bit and say I love my job. You heard me say earlier, I'm the happiest I've ever been. And this career, I'm a huge proponent of it. It's life-changing for people in so many ways, and it is for me. I absolutely love what I do. But as with every industry, there's a dark side to it, and a lot of people are afraid to talk about it. I had somebody tell me they didn't know if they wanted to come to this event because there was other people in the room that had bullied them before. And I said, well, if you don't come, then you're not helping be a part of the solution. So I think we have to get real. We have to talk about it. Management and shoreside support has to do their part, but I want crew members to know that you can speak up. And I get what it's like being 19 or 20 years old and walking up to a boat that's 150 feet long and you see this big, tall, big captain. You're like, oh my God, how can I ever talk to him? Much less if there's an issue on that boat. You don't want to go to him. You don't want to talk to him. And the other one, I just literally got this text yesterday. I think Ryan has my phone, but the text was dated March 11th, and it was somebody saying, check in on your crew, because a 20-year-old that had been in the industry for a year killed himself. So it's real, guys. This has got to stop. So you've heard a couple stories. I could go on and on. That's not the point. The point here is to bring awareness to it, to let you know that it's real, to really talk about it, and to try to figure out with these panelists and with you guys what we can do to make a difference. I am curious, though, how many crew members do I have here? We're getting there. We're getting there, okay? I want to get to where we have more crew members that come to these things. And thank goodness to people like DocWalk and Triton and whoever's here covering this for me. I appreciate it. And so if I have to go to the crew members and pull them off the boats at the next one, I'm going to. So let me just get started on exactly what mental health is. Mental health includes our emotional, psychological, and social well-being. It affects how we think, feel, and act. It also determines how we handle stress, relate to others, and make healthy choices. So, Becky, I want to start with you. What are some of the things that you see that end up being a deterioration in a crew member's, that lead to a deterioration of a crew member's mental health?
Boy, you can start at the top and work your way down. Let's start with some simple, just really simple, basic things. What's the average age of a new crew member? This is an attractive industry for young people. So they're just graduating high school, some of them graduating college. It's exciting. It looks glamorous. It's something that they want to do. They've been told they can make a lot of money. They can travel all over the world. So it's very attractive. And they enter into yachting. They bring with them all the baggage that all of us have. They leave their home country, they leave their town, they leave their family and their loved ones. They strike out, they end up on a boat. They're traveling the world, but they're living in tiny crew quarters. They're smashed into small spaces with people that they've never met before in their lives. They don't know anything about those individuals and whatever mental health issues they may have brought to the table. You work long hours. Sometimes 12, 14 hours a day. You're doing back-to-back charters. You're turning things around. There's very little rest. There's no privacy. It's a demanding industry. You're servicing charter guests and wealthy owners. They expect the best of the best. You're working really, really hard. And there's a financial reward, but there's also an emotional, mental health cost, physical cost. It's the wear down of your body. It's the lack of sleep. It's the stress of dealing with other personalities on the boat, guys and gals. You may be naturally shy, and now all of a sudden you're confronted with someone who's aggressive. These are all the kinds of things that come into play and can just start to wear somebody down. If you don't have the tools to know how to deal with stress and anxiety, if you don't have family support, you don't have someone that you can talk to, you don't feel comfortable or safe in some instances talking to someone, you're afraid you're going to lose your job. it's literally endless.
I want to stop you there, and that's I don't know if it's because, you know, I grew up on a farm, and I grew up around male-dominated industries, and I was a welder before I was a scientist, before I was a boat captain, and those are all male-dominated careers. So I'm pretty bold, and we had a mom that raised us. Where'd she go? We had a mom that raised us to say what we felt, but respectfully so. And for me, I can't really fathom not saying something. And so I hear these crew members, you know, and some of them from other countries that we know, they're here, and that this job supports the whole entire family back home. So if they say something, they lose their job. But you have to say something. So what I want crew members to know is that it's your responsibility to your own personal self to say something. If somebody's offending you, if somebody's saying something that's not colorful to you, or they're being mean, they're bullying you, or quite frankly they're being a pervert, tell them. But how do we handle that when the fact of the matter is not everybody can I'll just walk away from a job if you're going to be like that, but not everybody can. So Rick, I want to take this to you. This kind of gets into, a lot of boats do have management companies. So where do we go when a crew member feels like they can't say anything because they don't want to lose their job? And what do we do?
This is where the rubber meets the highway, because a lot of boats are managed and a lot of boats are not managed. There are management companies that are dedicated to being good managers, and there's others that just provide a service and sometimes not perfect. So you have to be aware of who and what you're working with, and just realize that, you know, just like everything else in business and life, there's, you know, shades of quality, shades of support. The starting point, though, is the chain of command. There's a chain of command on board these boats, and theoretically, if there's a problem on board, you go to your captain. That's the guy or gal that is there to support you and help you and make things work. Reality check. Sometimes that's the guy or gal that's causing you the problem. So now you've got to figure out, where do I go from here? And the chain of command would take you to your manager, your management company, assuming you have one. If the boat is managed by the owner, the owner's family, then you've got to really leap up that chain of command, or face a very, very difficult set of decisions, which are not enviable. And that is, you know, if the owner or the owner's family office is not approachable or not receptive, your choices are very limited. You know, stay on board and put up with it, or leave the boat and hopefully find a better boat that's managed better.
Well, and that brings me to a conversation that you came in on at the Miami Boat Show. Pete Southgate of Cayman Islands and Ingle, I'm not even going to try to butcher Ingle's last name, from Lloyd's Register. I was like starstruck when Lloyd's reached out to me on LinkedIn and said, "Hey, I like what you're doing. You need to do something with this. How can I help?" And then like a couple weeks later, Ingle and Pete are standing on the swim platform of my boat going, "Hey, we're here to talk." And right there's Pete. And Pete's been a huge supporter of this and everything. And we talked and we said, well, who's responsible? Who can make the difference? And Pete felt that it was management and the captain, and Ingle felt that it was the captain, and it is. But then you brought up a good point. Well, what happens when the captain and the manager have been buddies for 20 years?
Yeah, it can be a problem. So there's no way to dice that into something neat and tidy. It's you know, it's a top-down kind of environment. If the owners and the owners management group and the captain are all on the same page and they want a top-run vessel, they don't want the drama of all of this, they're going to make it their business to address this kind of thing and be proactive. If they're nonchalant about it, or, you know, God help you, if the owner is as perverted as the people on board causing the problems, then there's little to be done about it, unfortunately, other than potentially move on.
And sometimes you have to, and so that's one of the things that I want to say to the crew members. You don't have to stay, and don't stay. There's no dollar amount worth it, and there's a bunch of boats out there, and if you're good at what you do and you have a good reputation, you're gonna get snatched up to another boat before you probably ever hit the marina exit. So you can't stay. You can't keep yourself in a bad position like that. And you do have a right to speak up. Yeah, there is a chain of command, but I also think there's a tremendous amount of abuse of power in the chain of command in this industry. I've seen captains that are bullies, captains that abuse drugs and alcohol. I know when I took over Freddie and I moved into the captain's cabin, it was mostly clean, but there was a couple things in there. And I walked out and I said to my manager, I was like, Ricky, I don't drink. Why is there a breathalyzer in my cabin? This captain was taking a breathalyzer before he drove the boat. My manager didn't know. And the thing is they're good at hiding it. They're really good at hiding it. And I had somebody on board the other day, a freelance crew member, and she says, about died when she said this. Cap, thanks for getting us here safely. Last boat I was on, we kept hitting things on our way to Nassau. It's like, oh my God. So it makes you wonder what they're doing. And but that's another thing. So why is there such an abuse of drugs and alcohol in the industry? Well, okay, so that goes back to, I get we're away from home, we're isolated, we're lonely, we're stressed. I mean, being a captain it's a stressful job. I love it, but it's stressful. But fortunately, I don't have any issues with drug and alcohol. I utilize other resources, and I think one of the best examples of your resources that you can use and lend on is your family. And I think it's obvious I have a good one, and lean on them, but also lean on your other crew members. That we had a bit of a forum yesterday, well, a big forum all day yesterday, and the last session was on crew welfare, and it started touching on mental health. And I said, I'm really open with my crew, and if I'm in a funk, I tell them, and we check on each other. And somebody said, do you say to your crew, are you okay? Like, are you really okay? They're all standing back there in the corner. And I ask them all the time, are you good? I don't say, are you okay? My thing is, are you good? Are you good? And I'll know when one of them's off, And so they don't tell me right then, but they know that I'm not giving up. I'll ask you 20 more times until you finally tell me what's going on, And so you really got to check in with them, and you really got to ask them. But they do the same with me. And I think that this is something that we need to change the culture on board the boats. It doesn't have to be so much, I'm the captain, you're the crew. At the end of the day, I have the say. And yeah, they have a great deal of respect for me, but we run the boat together. And I've created a dialogue where I'm, very open. I mean, I just told a room full of strangers that when I was 26 years old, I wanted to kill myself. So, I'm open. We all struggle. We all have issues. But again, I've done the work to be as happy as ever, but they check on me too. And somebody said to me the other day, I did a podcast recording with Burgess, and they said to me, off recording, they said, well, who do you go to? My crew. Some of you may think it's wrong. You may think, well, as the captain, why would you do that? Why? That shows a sign of weakness. No, it doesn't. It's why we're so close. This is my crew's day off. Do you know what they've been doing all day? I didn't set any of this up. I haven't touched any of it. Yeah. So it's about also trying to shift the culture on board, and these old days of I'm the captain, you're the crew, don't question me. Those need to go away. Those are not working. Clearly not working, and you need to be more of a team.
I remember you saying to me, you did your due diligence on me. And me as a freelance stewardess, I did. And she was like kind of blown away by it. And I was like, do you not have other crew members that do diligence. Like, I ask the marinas that you dock at about you, and I ask about your crew that's there because I don't know you and what you tell me, and I feel like there's a lot of forums on social media where a lot of people do this, and I feel like a lot of crew don't realize it, but do your due diligence. Like, ask about these people, and I'll tell you what, people will tell you exactly what you want to know. You just have to ask the right questions. And I mean, Kelly was like super blown away.
She Instagram stalked me.
That's another story. But I know you know people in Lauderdale, and I asked because I didn't want to. This isn't my form, but go ahead. Yeah.
No, go ahead.
No, so I'm good. You're
good?
But
Okay.
I just feel like people, even, yacht brokers or the management companies, there's no reason why everybody can't do that very same thing, because word of mouth travels pretty damn fast in this industry, I'll tell you what.
It does. And, and what I don't want is let's all be adults about it. Just because someone disagrees with you or they irk you or they make you mad for a split second, don't go blast them all over social media. We're talking about serious stuff. Just because you don't see eye to eye with them, or just because they were having a bad day and they weren't so nice that day, that's not a reason to do that. Or I saw somebody a captain put in the captain's chat, don't hire this young lady because she left for a better boat. Well, that's pretty smart. Leaving for a better boat's a pretty good idea. And that boat happened to be mine, and I was like, that's another thing too, is sometimes I think heads of department and crew members have a little bit mixed up. I tell my crew the day that you find the 200 footer that wants to hire you, ask like where do I sign off? Get going. I want better for you. You guys better never leave me. I'd be lost. There needs to be a cultural shift. Crew members need to speak up for themselves. Oh, Herb, go ahead. Do you need the mic, Herb?
I know.
Okay.
Absolutely, Amy, thank you. Because that just reinforces what Rebecca said. It goes to personal responsibility at the entry level. A lesson they need to be taught through media, print it time and again, teach it at the schools. Everybody who has any contact with people coming in, if you've been here for a year and a half, people that are talking to Rick and the management company, do your due diligence, and then you might not find yourself in that compromised situation. It's a simple recipe. She stalked you, she did her due diligence, she ends up, you're a happy girl, right?
I am very.
Done.
Amy's worked for me for a year now. She's freelance. Amy wants to be freelance, and it works for our program. But Amy's been with me for a year. My engineer a little over a year. Sean's been with me the longest, 2 years. But we work at it. They work at it. You had a question. Hang on. Let me get you the. Okay. Sure. Okay. Thanks, Norma.
So I have a question about specifically the captain's chat and shaming of crew. I recently left a boat, as did several other crew.
What was your position on board?
I'm a chef.
Okay.
So one of the new stews stayed longer than me, but unfortunately was not a fit, and something extreme happened on board. There was an orgy on board. She did not want to participate, and she was, and I'm not saying it as a joke, in all seriousness, and she did not want to participate. She's quite young. I think she's maybe been in the industry 6 months, and she was shamed. She felt so uncomfortable and harassed that she decided she had to leave. She quit. And the captain told her point blank, I'm going to hold your passport. I'm going to tell every captain on the captain's chat what a terrible stew you are. She has no recourse. And I tried to get her to come today, but now she feels like she left her country did all the things we just said, and now she feels like she's shamed on this captain's chat because she didn't want to participate socially the way other crew were behaving.
She's not. I'm on the captain's chat, and it's well done. It's professionally done. But even if that particular captain did shame them, as we know, this industry's small. Us good captains know who the douchebags are. So we take that with a grain of salt. Okay? Go.
Kelly, I'd just like to say to this young lady and your stewardess friend, there are maritime attorneys who will definitely help her with her situation. Call Moore & Co.
Yeah, and where we're going to get to is I find that a lot of crew members don't know where to turn and who to get to. That stapled packet that you all sat down on, please take that with you for 2 reasons. I don't want to take it back home. And it's got a wealth of information in it. And while I'm here, let me just address it. So that packet has a bunch of information in it in terms of free resources, paid resources, who you can go to. Please, please, please look through it. I couldn't afford to print all of the resources off that I acquired. So if you'll go to my website, on my website there's a tab for mental health and yachting. And as soon as you go to that, you'll see all of the different resources that have been provided. So please, that was one of my reasons for wanting to do this seminar too, was to point out what's available. Kate, go ahead.
So I think that all the comments are very valuable, and in reality, I'm a big believer in being straightforward and being honest. I hate to tell this, but it's not how it works on boats. You start talking about people openly, you start giving people opinions, you ask harbor masters and people who are helping dock boats what their opinion is of people, you will find people will not say anything. And that's my biggest concern, is that where do the younger people go who are ill-equipped to be managers of people? They don't know how to deal with mental health issues. I know a lot of people who don't know about the services that are offered, and they go for things that they see as advertised, better help. And people are told to have a bubble bath and, put in, a diffuser on. And, if anybody knows the industry, we don't have a bath. It's not possible for us. And I just find that it's like, theoretically, it's great to be able to say, do your due diligence. And the captain's chat it's so good for us to hear that it is professionally run, because that is held over our heads constantly when we try and do the right thing. And it really scares me. Even the yachty's name and shame. People they keep themselves anonymous because we always are scared to ask a question. And I feel most sorry for the boats, because the boats get the blame. And these are beautiful boats, but it's the management and the captain and the crew that make it, the experience, what it is. And I find it just terrifying how quiet we keep, and it's just don't get involved. You hear that so often.
I'm done being quiet. Not that I'm going to be, I'm not the whistleblower, I'm not the fanatical type or anything like that. I'm just, and I think more of us have to be done being quiet. Wendy, I know you had something.
Yeah, so I completely agree with what you're saying. I'm hearing everything, and as one of the things that we can do is we can start small. And I've only just gotten to know Kelly, but we align on so many things, being a female captain, dealing with the things we've dealt with. But the best place that junior crew can start is to make sure that they have somebody to talk to, and it doesn't have to be somebody on their boat. My former crew, the students that I teach, they can contact me anytime. And they've come back to me a year later, 6 months later, whatever it is, just as long as they know they have someone to talk to, like your former crew member contacted you and said, I'm having a bad day.
Yeah.
And the captain's chats, as Kelly said, we take that with a grain of salt, because unless they're going to give us specific instances, and I'm pretty sure that orgy isn't going to be listed as a specific interest, but you never know, they might be proud of it. But on the captain's chat, unless it's, we were in the middle of a charter and the chef walked off in the middle of dinner service, that kind of a thing. Okay, let's hear the other side of it, but now I know somebody who is capable of walking off in the middle of dinner service. So we take that with a grain of salt, just as Kelly said, but we have to make sure that we remain available to the junior crew and that we are honest and transparent with them and saying, yes, this is a wonderful industry. This is exciting. It's glamorous. It's fantastic, but you're going to work. And the other thing is, if it's somebody who's a little shy, their tendency is to isolate anyway. So this is the perfect sort of shell for them to get in, and we have to make sure that we sort of pull them out of it.
I know more and more demands are made on us as crew members all the time. And I know it's stressful, and I know at the end of the day you just want to do your job and be done, but you know what? You were green at one point. You didn't know port from starboard at one point. And you owe it to these young people coming into this industry to help them. You owe it to them to be a good mentor. And if you're a captain that's not giving your chief officer helm time, shame on you. If you're a chief stew that's holding all of the secrets and doesn't want to help your second learn, well, you know what? Shame on you. And we see a lot of bullying, and I don't know. One of the guys yesterday said this is a very insecure industry, and in a lot of ways it is. But the bullying's got to stop. The tearing each other down's got to stop. It's not working. People are killing themselves over it, and there needs to be a cultural shift. And I think if captains start holding one another more accountable, so what if you stand up to somebody because they're snorting coke before they take the boat off the dock, and they get mad at you and they run around and they tell everybody that you're this, that, and the other. Well, I'm pretty sure everybody they've told that to probably stole the white stuff on his nose anyways. I mean, so don't worry about it. But I have a couple other directions that I want to go.
Can I jump in real quick?
Yeah, I was coming to you, John, but please go ahead.
Yeah, a few things. I mean, we've touched kind of all over the place, but we talk about heads of department, and I think that's where it really starts. But it's not necessarily the captain. It's not your management company. It's truly the head of department that you have to rely on. They are the ones who build the culture. They're the ones who are in your age category. They're the ones who are going through the same transformations and body changes that you are. They're the ones in the same suck. And I think that's where it really starts. You got to create that culture even on a lower level, not just looking at the top saying, well, how the hell does a captain do it? Well, how do you participate? How do you fall into that? How do we create that shift? So, it's easy to work top down, but sometimes you need to work from the bottom up in order to inspire everybody else to keep moving around.
And I think you're right. That brings a good point. You're a new crew member. You're 19, 20 years old, whether you're interior or exterior. But if you come to that boat with a piss poor attitude, it's not going to work. I mean, so check yourself for a minute. Ask yourself, am I part of the problem? Is it that every boat that I go to, I seem to only last 6 months, and I've been on 10 different boats, and well, maybe it's time to look inward and see if maybe you're the common denominator. So you think that it's not just the captains and the managers that have the greatest influence on board? You think it's everybody, or where do you think that change needs to start?
Well, so I worked and had several deckhands underneath me, had a second officer, and I was the one that they looked to. I was the one who had the morning meeting. I was the one who stood with them. I was out there on the rails. I was scrubbing teak right alongside of them. It wasn't the captain. Who do they feel most comfortable coming to in the time of pain, in frustration? They come to me. So I believe it starts at the head of department, where you really start making these cultural changes and saying, hey, it's okay. Talk to me. and you have to be just as vulnerable. If you're asking somebody to be vulnerable to you, you have to be vulnerable to them. So sometimes it's coming up and saying, hey, Chris, I had an absolute shit day, bro. I got this message from my girlfriend, or this is happening in my personal life. Break yourself down, and then they'll be able to also feel enough inside of them and comfort inside of them to bring it to you as well.
And that's what I was saying. You know, that I'm open with my crew when I'm in a funk or when I'm having a bad day, or, you know, or the grumpy face is on. You know, be open with them. If you're vulnerable with them, then that just opens up that dialogue for them to be vulnerable back to you. But I want to get to the bullying. Corinne Rayson of the crew coach reached out to me. She's one of my sponsors, and let me just say, she offered a resource that I think she's only making available for 24 hours after this event. It's something that she normally sells. So make sure you go onto my website and get that and download that. But she messaged me yesterday, and she says, hey, let's do a live event and talk about this. She's like, I just had a junior stew reach out to me about this just god-awful bullying from her chief stew. What's up with the bullying? Like, where is all this bullying and sexual harassment, and why do we want to break each other down instead of build each other up?
Kelly.
Go ahead.
I think in the last couple of years there's been kind of like a cultural shift where we see stuff online and on the news where people are losing it, and it's, you know, fodder for Instagram or whatever, and it becomes okay and people become desensitized to it. So then people it trickles down to, well, you know, I can bully this person or say this in this kind of way and it's okay, right? I feel a lot of times it's education as well, and I think we all have to look out for each other. So having to say, are you okay? You know, and looking for those signs to see if someone's not okay. And there are signs and stressors and things like that we can educate ourselves on. So when the crew is on board or we have someone shoreside come, they can kind of see it. Just out of experience, I can always tell when there's a good run crew, everyone's happy, everything's going smoothly, and I'm only there for a couple of hours maybe. And then I've been on boats where it's like, oh my goodness, what's happening here? People are yelling at each other, just uncomfortable, right? So then those are just basic signs that, you know, are pretty obvious. But I think with education, we can all learn and see what those signs are and you know, be able and be more equipped to handle when someone is going through a tough time. And even if it's just not even giving counseling, but just, you know, sitting there and listening to that person and doing active listening, it could go a lot.
When crew members call in, what do you hear most, Angelica? What's the most common theme that you hear? Is it bullying? Is it sexual harassment? Is it burnout? Is it what's the most common thread?
All of the above. I hear it all, and it's substance abuse. And a lot of times it happens where there's an actual medical emergency, and then it becomes known that there was, you know, some background where someone was having mental health issues. So it kind of goes hand in hand. But I've heard a lot of it. A lot of it is just stress on the people who are working, having good crew working on the boat. Sometimes it's owners making you feel like a robot. But I hear it all. I've heard it all, I think, at this point. So,
and you know, that's something that you just kind of struck a nerve with me a little bit, is feeling like a robot. I have a manager, again, Ricky, not Rick, and I love my manager. As with a lot of boats, there's that layer in between. So there's me, the manager, and the owner, and I don't have as much contact with the owner, and that's fine. That's the way that it's run. But you got to know when to say, no, I can't. And as captains, we don't ever want to say, no, we can't. We don't ever want to say, no, I can't do another charter, or no, I'm tired. We don't want to admit defeat. And there's that, and then there's we feel like we can't tell our owner no. And guys, I understand you got to put food on the table and you got bills to pay, but you kind of need to grow some, you know what I'm saying?
Well,
and when you're tired and you can't do it or it's not safe, say no. And I've got that rapport with my manager. But we've had some full-on squabbles about it too, because we're a busy charter boat. Their MO is to charter and to make money, and to that's what my boat's program is. And you have to learn to say no. Daphne's nodding her head. Again,
We have another one of your female captains here who wants to ask a question.
can we get to Daphne first? She's trying to talk. She started first. Well, okay. Hold that thought, Daphne.
Okay, sorry about that. A quick question that never seems to get addressed is crew members who are on medication for mental health will have that held against them when it comes to their ENG1s, and it is then on their ENG1, and it may well flag them for not getting jobs.
So what's your question?
Is that fair? Yeah. People are trying to do with mental health.
Kelly,
If you have diabetes and you have to take insulin, you're not going to be discriminated against, right?
Kelly,
Let's come back to that. Who's talking?
can I address Kelly? Becky up here.
Sorry.
Can I address one of the things that she mentioned? Your medical history as an individual is personal and it's private. And yes, you have to pass a physical exam. And yes, you have to communicate to the doctor if you're on any medication for whatever reason. And some medications that they give you to treat mental illness, anxiety, can have sedative results, which is why it comes up on an ENG1. But your mental health and your mental health history is just as part of your physical health history, which is protected under health information and privacy laws. And it's not to be communicated. You are not required, when you take a job on a boat, they're going to ask you, they're going to give you the physical limitations, or the requirements of that job. You're going to be required to lift 30 pounds. You're going to have to be on your feet for many hours. You're going to have to be able to do this. These are the parameters of the job. Are you physically capable of doing that? And you have to pass an ENG1. You have to have blood pressure. You can't be colorblind. These are obvious things.
Norma, you're not doing your job. You have one job, Norma.
We're still going. Sorry, but I was once given, I want to say it was like a 6-month ENG1. And that was because I was on Prozac. No physical impairment whatsoever. I left a job, got on Prozac because of a situation on board, and then was handicapped in getting the next job. Why have you only got a short ENG1?
In reality, the doctor that did your ENG1, how that was disclosed publicly, if you're being on a certain medication impacted your physical ability to run that vessel, that's one thing. If you're on some kind of a sedative medication where it could impact your ability to operate the vessel or function, that's one thing. I would have questioned the veracity of that physician releasing that information.
That's something I was going to say. Mom always taught us the squeaky wheel gets the grease, and don't be afraid to question an authority figure. Just do it respectfully, and I would say challenge it.
Right.
So I would challenge the doctor, and then for me my licensing body is the USCG. So I would call him up at the NMC and I would be like, excuse me, why X, Y, and Z? And sometimes just making that phone call or sending that extra email and that challenge lets them know, okay, maybe I need to look at this a second time. They get in a hurry like us too.
Well, and just to relay, I actually had a captain that called me that had a crew member who was on medication to treat ADHD. So, and he left his prescription was running out. He'd been away from home for so long, and he hadn't had a checkup. and they wouldn't refill his prescription. And he was running out of his medication, and they contacted me, could we help? Unfortunately, we can't provide prescription medications, but we did manage to get him a checkup and a doctor who was willing to write his prescription for the short period of time until he could get home for a checkup.
Let me go to Daphne.
Sorry, mine is going to go back to what you said before about being pressured as a captain and other crew being pressured perhaps by owners and the rest of the community and the brokerage community, which I happen to be part of. And I do think that everything that's being said here as far as communication is there is a trickle effect, and all of us work better and more successfully as a team. Whether you're a sales broker and you have a boat that you really care about and you want to sell, whether you're a charter boat and that broker is involved with the owner and the captain, because if I don't know my captains and my crew well enough to know that they want to say no, but they're not saying no, and I don't then get it over to the owner, I'm not doing my job either. And I think that was a really important thing that you mentioned, because it goes farther, it goes a lot deeper in all of this. Being aware.
But Daphne, people like you make a huge difference, and we need to be united. We're all in the same boat, so to speak, and we all need to be on the same page together. And I know there are charter brokers out there that just push, and all they want is the commission, and that's unfortunate. But I think that if there's enough good charter brokers out there like Daphne that are watching out for their crew, we can see a shift in the culture that I'm talking about, that I think that we need.
Kelly, I'd like to take a chance. Oh, go ahead if you got the mic back there.
To answer the question, if you have a challenge, whether it be color blindness, other medical challenge, or a prescription, go to the flag state where you have your Seaman's discharge book and plead your case and ask for a dispensation. How long have, I believe, decades, anybody getting into this industry or being a mariner, you get a discharge book, or you should have a discharge book because it's your personal responsibility. That gives you and empowers you to have seafarers' rights and to help the flag state administrators help you with your seafarers' rights. And that, again, then you can plead your case. If I'm missing a finger and I can't pass my USCG medical, I'm going to ask for a medical dispensation. If I have a condition where I need to take prescription medicine, it doesn't affect my ability to perform in emergency situations as a member of the crew, then there's a good chance once you plead your case that you will get a dispensation, and then you carry that with you throughout. So it shouldn't be a hindrance. And for anybody getting out, that'd be a great article. How do you get through these things? That'd be a great problem solve.
Hey,
and I just want to finish one more thing, and that is, thank you for that handout.
We're going to go through that here in just a second. You're welcome.
How many boats have that?
Yeah. Pete, what can you say about that in terms of flag state, and what can flag state do for crew when they are on a prescription that maybe doesn't want to?
Well, I think
Monique.
the problem is the ENG1 is a fitness for sea service. That's all it is. So it's not saying that you're medically fit. You're fit for sea service. Now, if the condition is not going to impact, as Herb says, if the condition is not going to impact your ability to serve at sea, then it really has no place on the ENG1. So again, I think I would, in the case that we just described, I would challenge the doctor. I mean, Norma mentioned diabetes. I mean, some types of diabetes are actually an excluding, you can't serve at sea with diabetes because of the risks, and, color blindness. If you're a navigational watch officer, you can't serve as, you probably wouldn't get a ENG1, or you wouldn't be able to serve as a deck officer on with color blindness. So the conditions that are limiting to your ability to be able to perform obviously should be listed on the ENG1, and then it's down to the employer to make a determination as to whether they want to hire that person. but if it's not impacting your ability to be able to function, as for the dispensation, we have done that on a very rare occasion where it might be something that we could look at, but it's certainly, we're not going to go against the advice of a medical practitioner. If a medical practitioner thinks that the individual is going to be impaired in performing their duties that they're hired to do, then we have to go by that as a flag state. We're not medical doctors. We can't overrule that. But again, I would go back to saying that it shouldn't be, the condition shouldn't be on the NG1 if it doesn't impair your ability to be able to do your job.
Okay, thank you. Monique, and then Norma behind you after Monique.
Okay, so to go back to bullying a little bit ago, I come from a retail background. I used to sell women's clothing, and then I worked in the RV industry. And the number one thing I realized about heads of departments or managers who bully is that they are actually insecure about themselves. So the reality of the situation is, as a manager, the greatest compliment to me, and if you're a head of a department on a boat, or you want to become a head of a department on the boat, the greatest compliment about you is how you train your crew up and how you get them the next big job, how you get them to the next place they want to be. We have been talking about, I'm shoreside solely. I've never served on a boat, so I look at this industry from a completely different side than anyone else. But when a boat makes it to me in Seattle, I can tell really quick how that boat's run when that crew and that boat is outside of the security of South Florida, or outside the security of the Med, or outside the security of the Caribbean, where they know everyone and everything. I can tell how that captain runs its boat. I can tell how that department head runs their boat. I can tell if that boat's going to be a problem. And it literally takes me 30 minutes on the boat to greet the crew after the boat arrives. And I can pick how that boat's going to operate based on how they talk to each other, how they talk to me, and what their attitude is when I step foot on the boat. If you're a department head, your job is not to push down the people underneath you. Your job is to get them their chief stew job, to get them their bosun job, to get them their captain job. That's your job, because there's too many boats and not enough crew. And if we're holding everybody back because we're afraid they're going to take our job, then we should really think about why we have that job as a department head.
You're right, and very well said. Yeah, and I want to say that, go ahead, John.
Well, I'm just going to, small caveat off of what Monique was saying, but absolutely, right? But I also think we need to figure out, how do we define what bullying is? Is it manipulation? Is it favoring somebody? Are we punishing our crew members for this? There's a difference between leadership and management. And what are the true differences between leadership and management? Somebody wants you to sit where you're at and always be underneath their heel, where somebody else wants you to take their job. So what are the opportunities that we're giving crew? How often are we pushing them outside of their comfort zone to take that next step? How do you get out of the boys club, right? And not rat on your fellow crew members, and be comfortable enough to say something out loud, to approach somebody in a different manner. So, there's a lot of aspects at this that we're all picking pieces out of, I feel, and it's all coming together slowly, but it has to happen with more conversations just like this one.
Oh, I'm on a mission. I'm taking this on the road. Go ahead, Rick.
I keep hearing the word management come into here, and there is a role for this too.
I was waiting.
And it has to do with being aware of the vessel's culture. Every vessel has its own culture, and it's varied and it's interesting. So as the managers of the boat, ideally you're showing up more than twice a year when you're doing your audit. We have an edict out within our organization that if we see one of our boats in harbor, and we happen to be in harbor, guess what? We come on board. And while it's great to go up to the wheelhouse and have a cup of coffee with the captain and have a conversation, the best place to go is down in the crew mess. Ideally in the morning when the breakfast is being served, or at lunchtime, that's always good too. And then what we like to do is hang out and ask a couple of the crew to sit down with us, almost always individually, and have a conversation, just a very informal interview. But what it does is, between hanging around the majority of the crew and sharing a meal, and then having that conversation afterwards where they feel hopefully safe and sharing openly any concerns they might have, we start picking up on nuances. We start getting a sense this boat's really run well, everybody's happy, they're pulling together. I was on board a boat recently. We did a bunch of safety drills. It was really cool seeing the crew suit up to do the firefighting and the man overboard. And what came out of that experience was a very cooperative, well communicating crew. Pleasant to see. It was. We come off the boat going, yeah, that's not going to be a big problem for us. Other boats, you can start sensing it, or you get the conversation, the feedback that someone's not happy, and those are cues. Those are little things to pick up on, and if they resonate enough, then it's a conversation with the captain.
How often do you check in with your crew?
As frequently as possible. I mean, that's a very difficult question to answer.
How many boats do you have now?
Well, we've got 4 in South Florida we're managing. We got 46 in the fleet.
Do you talk to crew members on those boats every day?
Yeah, right now. Usually the captain, but we're talking to somebody almost every day on every one of these boats.
And you should. And I'll say that's one thing that Ricky does really well, maybe too well, is Ricky calls me every day. We decided, this morning when we were getting ready to come here and we're all on board, Ricky had to get up earlier and go do some things with the boss. And it was 7 o'clock in the morning, and we hear somebody yelling down the crew mess, "Everybody awake?" And as much as we wanted to choke him, we laughed. Because he does, you look at Amy laughing, he does stuff like that. Daphne knows Ricky, and I'm like, Ricky, I told you we were going to the show. We don't have to be up yet. Just because you're up doesn't mean we need to be up. But he just does playful, fun stuff like that. And he's always checking on us. He's always seeing how we are and how we're doing and that kind of thing. But I will say, what managers can do, what HODs can do, what y'all can do is listen. So many people ask how can they make a difference, but they don't listen. When they don't hear what they want, they close off their ears or they attack that person back. Guys, if you want to make a difference, there's a reason God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth. Go ahead. I'm going to come back to that. I was almost on a soapbox, but thank you for being so patient.
2 things. One, are you hearing to listen or are you hearing to respond? Because most people listen to respond.
You're right.
And that's a whole new skill set for pretty much everyone. Going back to the being treated for depression.
Can you a little closer, please?
Being treated for depression. From a cruise industry point of view, it all comes down to the ILO maritime regulations, and there's a very specific period. I think it's 18 months. So if you've been on antidepressants, you have to be free of medicine for 18 months before you can go back on board again. So what a lot of people are doing is not disclosing that they've been having mental health challenges, because if they do, they lose their position. So this is something that the cruise industry has been looking into, and I know it impacts everyone in the yacht industry as well. And Becky, I get where you're coming from, but full disclosure, you've got to tell people I've been taking meds. And yes, it's your personal information.
What's your affiliation? I'm sorry, I don't know
I
you.
used to be at MHG, dealing with the cruise industry, doing their medical insurance. So we were dealing with people who were being diagnosed with depression and then being yanked out of their job, and then fairly shortly afterwards losing their insurance because they're being treated for depression.
Well, you're depressed, you're yanked out of your job. Guess what happens after that? You get even more depressed.
Mole, thank you for that. And I want to just mention that I ran into one of your cohorts, and we were talking about this program today. And one of the things that he told me I didn't know, and Mole, you can back me up, that health insurance for crew, there's virtually no monetary coverage for mental health care. $500 is the limit of what they will cover for mental health. You can't see a psychiatrist for $500.
Okay, so that gets me to where I said I do not want to take all these back home. Is it Pete, go ahead.
It's me again. Sorry.
Once you get Pete going, he's on a roll.
Yeah, just to speak to gentleman's point. I mean, obviously there are always excluded conditions on an ENG1. So if you happen to suffer one of those, then you could be prevented to going back to sea altogether. So that's one thing. But what I wanted to come back on is the bullying and harassment. You know, the Maritime Labour Convention introduced a mandatory requirement for companies to introduce harassment and bullying policies in their ISM systems. So I think, you know, although we're probably talking about smaller vessels or even private vessels, but again, that information is out there. The management companies, ISM management vessels, and MLC compliant vessels have to have harassment and bullying policies. Now, what that does is everybody reads that as part of their crew sign-on. So not only do they get their safety guidance, you know, the safety equipment on board, they have access to the crew, the bullying and harassment policy, which everyone has to sign up to. And what it does, it focuses people's attention, because sometimes people don't realize what they're doing is bullying. But if they can associate their conduct with the policy, it would help them to visualize that maybe what they're doing is actually causing somebody some harm.
That's a good idea, Pete. Thank you. Okay.
It's not. Oh, hiya. I'm Deirdre. I'm from Nautilus Yachtwear. I was crew for 7 years, and I'm not much taller standing up. I'm only 4'11". So I just want to say, for junior crew, your designated person ashore. I think junior crew should be told who they are. They should be introduced to them. And if you have a trouble where your captain is a creep, or your chief stew is married to the captain and she's the admiral, here's someone you can go to. And then on this see something, say something, I was on a boat about 8 years ago, and the first mate was struggling mentally. The captain went away for a month, and I was on watch. I was still in the dishwasher. He came in for the gym, and he really wasn't in good shape. And I said, look, is it not time you got yourself a bit of help? And he said, I think it's time. I got a gun. And I was like, Jesus. So he was in charge of the vessel. I went to the chief engineer. But previous to that, the first thing I did was I went down to my cabin and I called my then boyfriend, now husband, who is a captain. And I said, I know people talk, but this seems serious. And he was like, you can't sit on this. And when the captain came back, the mate said that because it had gone off the boat and I had called my boyfriend, that he felt that was unprofessional and that it was him or me. And I saw something and I said something and I lost my job. So it's not always, the boat did not have a management company, so I did not have a DPA. I did not have anybody I could speak to. And I just said, look, I'll go. And I mean, coming back to joining that boat, there were red flags. When I joined, the captain was like, oh, by the way, your third stew is getting fired. And he told the whole crew, but he didn't tell her, and I couldn't tell her, and I had to work with her for a month.
But you probably saved a life.
I don't know.
You saved a life, and good on you. Yeah, you saved, yeah.
But it's not always that simple, and it was only my second chief stew job. And it caused, because I was coming off another bad experience, it kind of caused a snowball where I left the industry for about 7 months. And I just think if there's no management company like that, there has to be somebody off the boat. And junior crew, if you go on a boat and you're not told, here is the person that you go to, then just don't join that boat.
You're right. And so where I wanted to get back to was, because I see we're getting close to time, but is I printed off I compiled a bunch of resources. Please take this with you. I don't want to carry it home, but please take this with you because it's a lot of useful information. Yacht Crew Help is part of ISWAN. They're free. So if you're struggling, you have an issue, you need somebody to talk to, you need some advice, call them. MedAir. Go ahead and offer what MedAir has there for you. free and charged, and then also let them know I was really surprised that that the services don't really cost as much as I thought that they would.
No, I mean, it's definitely cheaper than one therapy session on land, for sure. And going to iSwan again, they also have, we can do like educational online courses too. Occasionally they offer those as well. But they do have, I think, 20 different languages as well. So you can call and speak in your own native tongue as well. And I wanted to bring that up for iSwan. MedAir also has services that go hand in hand, so it's a streamlined service. So if you have the MedLink service, or even if you don't, you call in, it's one number. You talk to a therapist, certified counselor and therapist. They have about 60 different languages. It goes through Workplace Options, which is another company that we've partnered up with. They do a lot of corporations as well around the world. So it's basically 24/7. You can talk to someone kind of like at Shoreside. You call in the one number, you make an appointment, and you get to speak to a counselor. It's all confidential. No one calls the captain or the management company. The only time they would notify someone is if they thought you were a risk to yourself or to someone else on board, and they know what those trigger words are and things like that to identify those kind of issues.
Ish, how much do your counseling services cost?
It's literally about $90 to $100 per crew member for the year. So if you're running 10 crew, it's about $1,000.
So for the 6 of us, I could have counseling
under $1,000.
Under $1,000. So if you're a crew member, take this piece of information back to your captain, back to your management. Let them know that it's not as costly as you think that it might be.
And I just advise, because I know we have sometimes captains who are like, I would know if someone was, feeling down, which is obviously not true, and we all kind of know that. But just educating, just putting that number down in the crew mess, and just being like, it is here in case you need something.
Absolutely. We got all night.
It definitely makes a difference. And there's also training. Because we kind of talked about education as well, and there's training courses for management companies, PAs of owners' offices, as well as the crew and department heads that they can take. It's an hour and a half long. It goes on to kind of give you the indicators of someone struggling, what are those signs, how to better cope, and gives you those kind of tools. Obviously not to be a counselor, but kind of get the conversation started, and gives you the tools to help identify those problems and how to deal with it on board as well. So that's all offered through us as well.
Thank you. Becky, what is it? And we have plenty of time for questions, guys. So I just want to get through Pete told me, if you're going to do this, you have to have some deliverables, Kelly. So I'm going through my deliverables, and the one thing I want you to walk away with is where you can go, because so many people have told me they don't know where to go. So let me check this off my box, and then I promise we can do questions all day. So what does MSOS do?
Well, being a medical provider, obviously we have telemedical support. So
but more particularly towards the mental health support that we're talking about.
Anything, whether it's physical or emotional, mental, there's medical access, and those services are readily available. They are inexpensive by broad spectrum. A simple visit to an emergency room here, you're talking thousands and thousands of dollars, half of that, and you've got service, backup, medical service, emotional and physical.
So your counseling services, is that like an additional package?
It's built into our...
it's built in.
It's built into our telemedical
So yours is
support.
built in, and then yours is an add-on.
One of the other things I wanted to point out is that every vessel runs with medical equipment. If they charter, but there are medical kits and there's medical equipment on board. Part of that medical kit, and it's mandated under the IMO. On that long list of medicines, there are antipsychotics, there are anti-anxiety medicines. Obviously, we wouldn't want you to administer any of those without having a doctor on the phone advising. They're also going to advise if they, in their opinion, along with your information, if they feel that this person needs to be put into the hands of professional medical care as quickly as possible. But there are medications that can be administered if somebody has a psychotic break on board. I mean, there are stories. We had a boat where a crew member barricaded himself in his cabin with all of the knives from the galley. And they literally, it took 4 days, and the Colombian Police Department to finally 4 days to literally starve this guy out of his cabin.
Yeah.
So there is treatment. There's medical treatment, there's medical advice, there's mental health support. It's readily available.
Yeah, so it's there, guys. There's paid, there's free. The other one that I've been working with is Emma from Seize the Mind. She used to be a crew member. She's gone on now to have her own business where she's offering mental health first aid courses along with other courses, and it's in this pamphlet, but it's called Seize the Mind. Free. I found some free ones. Actually, I didn't find them. They came to me, and this is through the Crew Academy, and it's their mental health 2023 calendar. The 8th and 9th of May, the 2nd and 3rd of October, the 27th and 28th of November. For Captain and HOD's mental health is a course. There's a course in the November 7th for suicide prevention. This is free. I know some of you don't have boats that will pay, and I know some of you have boats that don't think that this is a priority. So here's a free one that you've got. Corinne Rayson of the Crew Coach. I already told you, here's a one-pager, but she's also allowing you to download the resource that you would normally have to pay for. She's got huge resources. The Coast Guard, there's an app where you can report sexual harassment, and there's also another app that you can report bullying, theft, drug abuse, you name it. And it doesn't just go for Coast Guard vessels. If you're in the U.S. territorial waters, you can utilize that. So there are resources, guys, and that's, like I said, one huge thing that I wanted to make sure everybody walked away with. I know we have more questions. There's a crew member here. I'm so excited.
My name is Sarah. I'm on Motor Yacht Freedom. Sorry. I was just wondering if any of these resources are available in the maritime schools for people first starting out, green crew, maybe a course that could be included into the STCW. Because when I first started out, I had no idea what I was getting myself into, as most people do. Coming from a small town in Minnesota to then all of a sudden working with people from all around the world. You don't know that something's off until someone else points it out. But I had no idea. Just most people, green crew, don't know ahead of time what they're getting themselves into until it's not too late, but just in that position of losing your job that you're relying on.
It's a good question, and I'm going to, everybody see your hand, but there's somebody else I want to answer this, and it's the CEO of Blue Water. So I think a lot of people know who Blue Water. There's Blue Water and there's MPT, and this fella is also a retired physician, and like I said, the CEO of Blue Water. So what do you got?
Sure, thank you. Clearly, first of all, I know the MCA is looking at implementing some sort of training as part of their required training. Okay, the STCW, I know that it's being looked at the IMO level in terms of mental health. We currently don't, quite honestly, offer anything for beginners, new crew. However, we certainly talk to them about issues like this, not as a formal course, but in terms of expectation management. And I know I do that personally, almost every new class. We've had discussions with Emma at Seize the Mind, and I know Blue Water has an initiative to offer some of those courses.
Well, and I know Emma posted something the other day on social media that mental health first aid was going to start becoming a part of the STCW the convention and being training. So I don't know when that is going to be enacted, but I mean we're getting there little by little. Go ahead, Norma.
How you doing? I'm Bill with MedAir, retired police officer, and so I've dealt with a lot of kids that are the same age as the kids on the boats, dealing with a lot of mental health, seen everything from deaths to suicides. The biggest issue that they have is confidentiality. To know the fact that they can call somebody without anybody knowing. That's the hardest part about kids now, reaching out for help, because they can't, they're afraid of the stigma that goes with it. Even as a police officer, all the things that I've seen, and we could never go out for help. Because if they deemed us sad or mad, we'd lose our job. And I think that's a lot of the same things that these kids deal with. But if they know that there is a confidential therapist that they can call without the captain or anybody knowing, I think that that's at least going to help them make the first step. Because that you're out in the sea, you're sad, you're mad, you're dealing with people, whatever it may be. You know, just the fact that you have to reach out, and that's the hardest part. You know, see something, say something, but that person has to be able to do it in confidentiality.
The problem is, where are they going to go when they're at sea?
You know, you call the 800 number.
Right, and where do you go on the boat to have that confidential discussion?
You go in your cabin. Who cares where it is?
Living on top of women. I agree.
No, I understand it, but I've been there. But
I agree. But these are young people that share what they ate for breakfast on social media, but there's nobody they can talk to.
And it's hard. I mean, our walls are tissue paper thin. I mean, I get it. You don't want anybody else to hear it. But again, we got to change the culture on board. We really do, to be more caring and more open. And I know we are. And then back to
just
Wendy.
really quickly. I mean, everybody's bringing up great points: the confidentiality, the teaching, bringing it in, empowering our crew members. I mean, one of the things as a captain I do is I put every crew member up on the wing station or the flybridge so they can see what I see. And I'm like, what do you see? And they're like, not much. I'm like, right, that's why I rely on you. That's how important you are as a crew member. So that's one of the things I do, is just trying to empower them with knowledge and experience. But again, it goes, because I do some teaching for 7 Seas Prep, and these are, you know, kids who have seen the show, and they think that's how yachting is. And I talk to them not once over 3 days, but at least 2 or 3 times about mental health. And I am so brutally honest. I'm like, FYI, you're going to get fired. And they're like, wait, what? I'm like, when you get fired, here's what you do. You take a breath. You talk to somebody. You just graciously get off the boat. But it's being realistic, and it's telling them how things really are, so that this image that's been, you know, thrust into their brains from all different social media and television, it becomes a little more realistic. And so they're not so shocked, and also letting them know that there are places. And that's why some of my former students and crew members still call me, because I am that safe person. And I can give them the perspective.
And good for you for doing that. And I'll be done with this, but like I said, I couldn't print all that I found. So please go to my website, take the time to click through the buttons. It's nicely organized, and see what there is there that could help you. Herb. Okay.
Hi, I'm Erin with Blue Water, and I'm the interior instructor, and I completely agree, because I'm very heartfelt. I've been a crew member for 7 years, and I have seen my absolute worst days. That's where we start. And we don't just start there. If you're a school, if you're a management company, if you're a boat, you post these flyers. You make it known. You be the wave that changes. How did in the 90s, in the 80s, when they started saying smoking was truly bad for you, how did that wave, and I'm not picking on smokers, but how did that wave continue to get people to stop smoking? People talked about it. This is how we talk about it. It starts here. It starts with social media. Get on your pages, post this stuff, and be real. Be real about your own experiences. I was not the best chief stew at times. Okay, I've been there. I've learned. I was bullied. I was harassed. I left the industry because of that. And I came back because this is an amazing freaking industry. And we have to teach the love and the heartache and everything else behind it. But it starts with being real. Don't be a glamorous show. We have to post this stuff.
Thank you. You're right. Yeah, you're right. And I know I'll probably get a couple messages about how real I was in my inbox after this, but I don't care, because somebody's got to take that first step to be real and to be honest and to be raw. And I think I just know that in my little small microcosm of Freddie, me being raw has let everybody else on there be raw too. So if we can get to the next boat, if you can take it back to freedom, and it's going to spread, and that's my goal, is to get this more spoken about. I want to get more crew member butts in seats. We've got a decent share here, and I want to encourage more and more to come. And what I want to say to young crew members is, come to these things. I know it seems scary as hell. I was there when looking at someone like me was like so intimidating, and I had somebody the other day tell me, oh my God, I'm so scared of you. Oh, me? Like, I talk to my crew, like, my bark's worse than my bite. But I know that you shoreside support people that and the older captains, you're scary to these young crew members. So make sure you're doing your part to reach out to them and encouraging them to come and be here and really truly listen to what they're saying. And I think making them feel that like you said, this really is a safe place. It's a wonderful place. This industry has been life-changing for me, and I know it has for many other people. And I love what I do. I'm the happiest I've ever been. Any more? Or
Has to say something before it's closed.
Herb, it's your last one.
One answer. The reason I keep my hands up is because the PTA I'm in, the SCA I'm in, and the Boy Scouts of America, we keep our hand up just in case, because somebody might have answered the question in the conversations, so then you put your hand down. Otherwise, you keep it up, keep your turn. I'll let you in on a takeaway for all this. First of all, thank you for bringing this up and bringing everybody together. Everybody, hand of applause for all of this.
Thanks, sir.
Bravo. Brava. Yesterday, after the ISS meetings, let you in on a little pack. Jay and I shook hands because we made a commitment. We're going to start a working group, especially members within the ISS, to start creating a number one handout, like what you've done here as an example, for when you come through the doors of Blue Water, or you come through the door of a uniform vendor, or you come through the door of anybody in the industry. Guess what? You're going to have information. If you're a crew member, tell anybody. You'll have a source to go to. The Coast Guard is trying to help. They will answer these calls. I'm a member of Coast Guard Auxiliary. I work with Sector Boston and Sector Miami. This came out this summer. It is effective and it's real. But anybody that wants to get in touch with Jay and myself and become part of the working group towards continuing what you've done right here, and when we're done with all this, get a hold of Jay and myself. We'd love all the company we can get to keep carrying the torch that you're just got lit right here, kiddo.
Thanks, Herb.
Thank you.
Thank you, Herb. Right here.
Well, I'd like to just say something about the ISS, since Herb and Jay are volunteering to help us, which we believe in. Just today at our board meeting, we decided that we were going to establish a special, severely reduced membership for crew people to join ISS. I don't actually know what the number is. I think it's going to be $25 or $50 a year, and there's going to be yacht memberships as well. So resources are growing is the point, and I think that everybody in the industry is really interested in these subjects. I know that every one of the seminars that I've hosted or participated in or seen always has a lot of people that attend. So
thank you for
more information
Thank
coming.
you for doing that, because I know on the car ride home I was going to corner my crew and tell them they needed to join the ISS, because I joined the ISS and there's not enough crew members on the ISS. but then, you know, I know some of them might not want to pay for it, and I was going to, come hell or high water, because I wanted the minute. But thank you for reducing that rate, because we do need more of a crew voice there.
You're more than welcome to join as a yacht membership. That one I do know, that's going to be $300 a year.
Okay.
Which is less than 2 annual memberships for, you know, the rest of us.
Yeah.
Norma, just to add, with ISS, I hope you guys consider setting up a mentorship program so that young crew can actually have a mentor. Somebody
That's another
that they
soapbox of mine.
it's someone they can look up to, someone that they can trust, someone that can be there in a time of need, someone that can answer questions.
That's part of the cultural shift, you know, in mentoring. And like I said, you know, just the small example of mentoring. Somebody said, I've been on this boat for 2 years and the captain won't let me have any helm time. And I said, well, then you need to leave, because yes, that's all part of it too. I'm trying to get to you so hard. Go ahead. Yes.
My name's Erica. I'm one of the medical instructors with MedAir. And I had a thought, starting with one of the things that Becky mentioned that's a stressor was that lack of privacy, and then segueing on to what Bill said about having a place to have a phone call. And a solution that myself and a pediatric nurse came up with in a camp environment, I think would actually apply to yachting. Taking proactive measures to protect mental health is really important. So I was working at a summer camp the first summer after COVID, when camps could open up. And we had to create a respite room for the staff who were regularly having nervous breakdowns. And similar to being on a yacht, living in a room full of bunks with other staff members and having to take care of the kids all day and not having a place. So we created a room where they could come. They could sit in there for 15 minutes. We had a couple of them spending the night, and we would stay up, and these were people that we were worried about their mental health. If there was a place on board that could be provided for people to maybe have for 15 minutes a day, to sit, to read, to call mom, to call the boyfriend, to make that phone call to mental health. It not only provides the service, but as a manager, you know that it's not so much that you're giving that to them, it's that they know that you're thinking about their mental health. And that kind of has a rebound effect on its own, just to know that you're recognizing that they need that this is a struggle for them. So it's just a thought, maybe to create respite time, respite areas on board for crew to have some space.
No, I like that. Me and my first officer have popcorn in the engine room. That's where I was hiding in the engine room with a bowl of popcorn one day, and he came down there to hide too. So now it's our hiding spot. But I have an engineer now, so sometimes he gets in the way. Now you know. So look, I know that I've gone over. Norma's asked me if I have time for more questions, and I absolutely do. But I see some of you are wiggling in your seats. So there's some people that I want to thank, and then those of you that are looking for an excuse to go. Those of you that have more questions and want to stay. So I want to thank Engineered Yacht Solutions. They're a huge fan of mine, and they're a huge support of mine. It all started with Yard Period last year on Freddie, and they just, they're great. They're awesome. They're supportive. They're good at what they do. They are. And I'm notorious for going to them each Yard Period and saying, I need this done. And they say, okay, how many days? And I say 2. And so somehow they make it happen. I love these guys and girls that are there. They're awesome. Seize the Mind, I mentioned her already. She was so nice to just provide me with resources. Corinne, the crew coach, her as well. Dock Walk, thanks for coming. Thanks for supporting this and sharing this on social media. Thanks for having me have my own column in Dock Walk. That's really cool. Ocean Independence, I think we wore Daphne out. Did Daphne go? Yeah, Daphne just left, but they're awesome. I've got a bulldog of a charter manager, and she's super cool, and that's super important. The Triton, thank you so much for them covering this and sharing this as well. Yacht Crew Help. Thank you for Salty Rags for calling me up on Friday saying, I see what you're doing and I want to sponsor you in terms of keeping you clothed. And he's like, I love what you're doing. So please, there's hats and shirts and there's stress balls from EYS. I thought stress balls were really appropriate for a mental health seminar. I do not want to carry those home. Please take them with you. I'm probably missing someone because Ryan's got my phone, and I'm sorry if I do, but I want to thank my crew. You guys, I couldn't do this without you. You're huge to me, so thank you for that. Jessica for making me, when I said, I think I want to do a mental health seminar, calling me up 2 days later, okay, the time is booked. Oh, so thanks for the push. And to the person that has been there since the beginning. I was cleaning out the garage of a 65 Princess in Chicago when I was running on the Great Lakes, and somebody comes stumbling down the docks with a camera in hand. And we ended up forming what's called the captain's classroom and sitting on the floor of this garage in this little boat. And that's Ryan, the guy that's been running around with the camera. Ryan's been here since day one, and I couldn't do it without him. And yes, it does take a team to do this. I don't drive and post at the same time. So Ryan and Jessica, I couldn't do that without them. And to all of you guys, I can't believe I got this many butts and seats. It's awesome. And Pete, thank you for the extra push. And to Ingle, that's not here, that quickly jumped on and said, you got to do something with this. I don't know what it is, but you better do something with it. And I know I'm missing people, but there's so many people that have supported me, and thank you so much. And I forgot to thank my sister. Is it not on?
In her enthusiasm, she turned it off.
Sorry.
So I'm Brandy, Kelly's big sister, which she'll be really happy that I said that because she's always been Brandy's little sister.
I've always been known. Oh, you're Brandy's little sister. Yeah.
So thank you to you guys, because I'm not like a yachty or in this industry, but I'm like the captain of my own crew. Like, I run a business and I have 3 girls that work for me, and like I'm shaky because this is like a lot. This helped me. So this helped me a lot. So it's gonna teach me how to work with my people and my girls. So thank you for that, even though I'm not have anything to do with boating industry other than Kelly. Also, don't forget your families. Like, you guys are busy and gone a lot. Like, shoot them a text, say, hey, how are you? I'm good, I'm off. Send us pictures of sharks and turtles and amazing, beautiful ocean pictures. And then another thing, as being a family member, like, when I don't hear from Kelly, it might be 2 a.m. and I'll send her a text and I'll be like, you good? And she'll say, yeah. And then I'll say, hey, I love you and I'm proud of you. And that's it. That may be all we get. But that's super important, I think.
Especially Brandy and I I'm 41 and she's 43, and we're jamming. I mean, we're in the highlight of our careers, and my sister's a world-renowned tattoo artist. The NBA, the MLB, the NF, whatever, this and that, they fly to Podunk, Indiana to get tattooed by her. So she's tough.
Shout out to Mom.
So my mom's raised 3 good kids, and I wish my mom was here too. She'd be crying more than Brandy. But we're in the highlight of our career, and we're really jamming, and Mom is patient with that. But it is really, really important to send that text, and to just, even if it's just to say, yeah, I'm good, I'm busy, or are you good, or, you know, my brother's got a new puppy, and hey, send me a puppy pic. Thanks for that, because it works both ways, you know, in terms of keeping in touch with your family.
Thanks, Kelly, for bringing us up.
Thank you. And to my panelists. Oh, she's not done.
And I want to thank Kelly's crew, because I don't worry about her. I spent a lot of time worrying about her, more than she even knows, and I don't. You guys are awesome, and thank you.
Fantastic.
Thank you to my panelists. Thank you so much for coming and being a part of this, and letting me walk into your offices, some with chairs, some without. And listening to me babble on for, I think I was in MSOS for an hour and a half one morning, and Rick and I have talked a lot, and Angelica having, you know, coffee with me for, I think it turned into a 3-hour therapy session for the both of us. But thank you, everybody. If you've got questions, you're welcome to stay, but I'm taking this show on the road. I'm not done here. Thank you. Yeah. We will. I guess Jessica's already signed me up.